Sipper. How did I end up here?
And all I've got to offer is sensitivity, intelligence, and charm.
Hi, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while since I made you some juicy content, but I'm back. And today, as you can probably tell, we're going to talk about Tokyo Ghoul. But not just Tokyo Ghoul, we're going to talk about Tokyo Ghoul and moral relativism. Now, moral relativism is obviously a little bit of a dicey subject, so this is a video that's meant to be entertaining and educational. Relax. As you can tell, we take things very seriously here. So, to kick things off, let's lay down some groundwork and talk about what moral relativism even is. Moral relativism is the idea that there are no absolute rules to determine whether something is right or wrong. Moral relativists argue that there is more than one valid system of morality. Basically, something that might seem immoral to us is perfectly moral to a different culture. Finnish philosopher and anthropologist Edward Westermark was one of the first, if not the first, moral relativist thinkers. He developed the theory. This was back in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And the theory really hasn't gone anywhere, especially in philosophical circles. This is so awkward. Big names in the modern moral relativist world include Bernard Crick, who suggested in Defense of Politics in 1962 that moral conflict between groups of people is inevitable because there is no absolute morality. Thomas Kuhn, who arguably, please no fighting in the comments, you nerds, was a relativist when it came to the scientific method, basically arguing that we will just keep developing new scientific methods and there is no absolute science. Yeah. And Nalin de Silva, who in his book Mage Lokoya criticized the basis of the established Western system of knowledge. I think it's worth pointing out here that the philosophical notion of moral relativism is pretty different from how the term is used in daily conversation. When people refer to moral relativism, they usually just mean that everyone is entitled to their own views, and that we have no right to impose our views of morality onto other people. Now, this might look like moral relativism, but in most cases, it's really just an argument for peace, an appeal to diplomacy, while the speaker kind of quietly still holds tight to their view of morality. If that person were to be confronted with an actual affront to their moral identity, their tolerance would probably break down into more absolutism. So, anime. So, now that we got all that nerdy shit out of the way, let's talk about different kinds of nerdy shit. Anime. A lot of anime deals in moral relativism. Foes become friends, everyone seems to have some sort of valid point. This is especially apparent in shonen anime. And one shonen manga/anime in particular really stands out to me. If you can't guess what it is yet, I don't know what to tell you. It's Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul, I feel like, really lives in the world of moral relativism. Ooh, gross, sorry. Tokyo Ghoul is a dark fantasy manga series written and illustrated by Sui Ishida. It began publication in Shonen Jump in September 2011 and began its life as an anime in September 2014. Now, let's talk synopsis. If you've been on my channel before, you know that we're about to pull up a Wikipedia article. I can't read, I'm sorry. I just suspended the disbelief. No, that's not the word. Sorry. I need to read the thing. The story follows Ken Kaneki, a student who barely survives a deadly encounter with Rize Kamishiro, his date, who reveals herself to be a ghoul and tries to eat him. He is taken to the hospital in critical condition. After recovering, Kaneki discovers that he underwent a surgery that transformed him into a half-ghoul. This was accomplished because some of Rize's organs were transferred into his body, and now, like normal ghouls, he must consume human flesh to survive. Ghouls who run a coffee shop called Onteku take him in and teach him to deal with his new life as a half-ghoul. Some of his daily struggles include fitting into the ghoul society, as well as keeping his identity hidden from his human companions. So basically, ghouls eat humans. Kaneki was a human and becomes a half-ghoul, and now he kind of has to deal with that. Like I said, there is a manga and an anime. Hot take, just read the manga. It's way better. The anime kind of botched a lot of things. So that's my recommendation. Just read the manga. It's good. It's really good. Promise. Scout's honor. So the whole thing kind of starts as this ill-conceived racism metaphor, similar to like animal racism metaphors, where like the carnivores are the marginalized group. Like Zootopia. Shout out to Jack Saint. You should watch his video on animal racism metaphors. It's really good and he explains it much better than I ever could. But Tokyo Ghoul starts out kind of like that, with the ghouls being the oppressed group, who are also the carnivores, and the humans / CCG are the oppressors, but also the prey. It's also worth noting that the ghouls that take Kaneki in at the coffee shop called Onteku are like vegetarian ghouls, meaning that they do not kill. They feed on flesh that has already been unalived. Just wanted to throw that out there. These are like good guy ghouls, kind of like the Cullens. So season 1 is primarily kind of this ill-conceived racism metaphor, but things really kind of start to shift into the realm of moral relativism. It becomes apparent that some of the characters that we had assumed were good guys are maybe not the goodest of guys, and that everyone kind of has a reason for behaving in the way that they do. Every character in the show is wrong, and every character in the show is also right. Sorry, this is like sliding off my face. Who would have thought my makeshift Tokyo Ghoul mask wouldn't work out? In fact, there are very few purely evil characters in this show that I feel like I could point to. Like, maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, I think there's only like 2 who are presented as wholly inexcusable. But then we have these early villains who turn into friends, like Tsukishima, or the Gourmet, who first appears in the show when he tries to eat Kaneki because he's like obsessed with the smell of his blood or something. And while he stays very unhinged for the rest of the series, he does become a friend. Then we have Mato, who, although he himself doesn't really get redeemed, he is sort of redeemed through his daughter, who becomes a friend. The list goes on and on. We have Juzo, who is this, you know, the type of anime character. Here's a clip of Juzo.
困りました。ここはどこですかね。いやいや、交番を発見しました。助かりました。すいません。朝の下っ端の鈴谷十三です。迷子になっていて遅れてしまいました。よろしくお願いしますです。
If you've watched anime, you've seen this character before. Anyway, Juzo has a tragic backstory, and we end up cheering for Juzo. Then we have Ayato, who is the younger brother of Toka, the love interest in Tokyo Ghoul, who's honestly just like an angsty teenager. Yeah, it's basically revealed that he's just an angsty little boy. Then there's Nishio, who is first introduced trying to eat Kaneki's best human friend, but then it's revealed that he is actually dating a human girl and very much in love with her, and he becomes one of our closest allies. And then there's Naki, who's just a mess.
Not again! Oh man, that hurts so bad I'm gonna cry. I can't help it. Do you have any idea what I've been through, lady?
Even the final big bad of the whole story, Furuta, he doesn't necessarily get redeemed per se, but he is presented as having traumas that to the reader might excuse his actions. Want to clarify, they do not, just to be clear. There are also some characters who, when we first meet them, we assume that they're purely good, but they turn out to be not the best of friends, like Uda, the mask maker, who's actually a part of this terrorist organization called the Clowns, and they're just real rat bastards.
金木くんあ、ウトさんマスクができたからすぐに届けたくてせっかくだから金木くんがつけてるとこ見たいな
And Toru, who is complicated and whose character is a little transphobic. Not your best work with Toru Ishida. Anyways, having characters who go from villain to friend or friend to villain is obviously not unique to Tokyo Ghoul. This happens a lot in anime. What makes Tokyo Ghoul really stand out to me is that this moral relativism seems to be at its very core. It's what the story is about. See, the driving force of the first part of Tokyo Ghoul is this conflict between the ghouls and their mouthpiece, Ken Kaneki, and the CCG, the government organization that was created to eradicate ghouls, with their mouthpiece, Amon. And these two, Kaneki and Amon, have this really interesting interaction near the beginning of the story. If I'm able to find one, there should be a clip of that here. Clip, which hopefully you just watched, is kind of the driving force of the first part of Tokyo Ghoul. Both sides are in the wrong. Both sides have bad people and their own idea of what is right. It's all fairly cut and dry and still kind of bleeds into that messy racism metaphor. And that's basically part one of Tokyo Ghoul. Ken Kaneki hates ghouls, becomes a ghoul himself, realizes these guys aren't so bad. Amon, who is this young agent at the CCG, hates ghouls, meets Kaneki and goes, these ghouls aren't so bad. And Kaneki goes, the CCG maybe isn't so bad. And that's basically the driving force of part one. But then things get just a little bit more complicated in the second part, Tokyo Ghoul Re, where we see our protagonist, Kaneki, once again switching teams, having lost his memory at the end of part one and having been recruited by the CCG. particularly the CCG's kind of golden child superstar agent, Arima, who is later revealed to be part ghoul himself, along with the rest of the Washu clan, the clan which founded the CCG. You can see the hypocrisy here, right? Like the clan that started the CCG they're all ghouls. So one, wow, okay, everyone's a hypocrite here. And two, it's also revealed that Rize, the ghoul from the very beginning who tried to eat Kaneki and whose organs are inside of him, was a part of that Washu clan. So, like, connections are being made. Everyone's a bastard. Everyone thinks they're right. Everyone thinks everyone else is wrong. See how the CCG even starts developing artificial ghouls in this part of the story, injecting cadets with special ghoul cells. Brainwashed Kaneki is put in charge of these false ghouls and is basically told that that is what he is as well. Obviously, as to be expected, Kaneki eventually gets his memories back. He is not super happy, but also now he's formed these close relationships with members of the CCG, while also having these close relationships with members of the Ghoul faction. So, what does he decide to do? He decides to form a terrorist organization. Will I get demonetized for saying that? I'm not advocating for that, but basically he forms this organization that brings ghouls and humans together so they can come together, kick ass, and take names, and take down the corrupt CCG, or rather the Washu clan, which is kind of pulling the strings. The story basically ends with our boy Kaneki getting his panky chucked and having a baby with love interest Toka, who I briefly mentioned earlier, and everyone kind of singing Kumbaya. Okay, obviously if you've read Tokyo Ghoul, you know so much more happens than that, but that's basically the note we end on at the very end. Because no one was wrong, but also everyone was wrong. So now we're just kind of over it. But the thing is, while no one was wrong, but everyone was wrong, there are still purely evil characters in Tokyo Ghoul. Like, there are characters who are irredeemable, who are morally corrupt no matter which side they fall on. Like Jason, who is responsible for one of the worst torture scenes in all of anime. It is barely watchable. It's hard, guys. It's a rough sequence. It's like 2 episodes. End of season 1. But anyway, Jason does that. And Dr. Kanu, who is responsible for turning Kaneki into a ghoul and basically conducting all of these horrible experiments on ghouls. He's like a mad scientist character, and he's a real piece of work. So there are these truly evil characters, just like there are truly evil things in the real world. There are indeed absolutes. Not everything is relative. So while morality isn't totally relative, it's also not as black and white as some people would like you to believe. I think there are things that most people would agree are totally irredeemable. So, conclusion. Let's hop over to the conclusion. So in recent years, Tokyo Ghoul has kind of gotten a reputation for being this sort of fake, deep, edgy, hot topic bait story. Similar to Death Note, like something that emo 14-year-olds would be into. But I would argue that it's actually a really interesting look into the world of moral relativism and the limits of that relativism, where the theory stands up and where it doesn't. The story definitely takes these ideas to the extreme, but that extreme is kind of what makes it so interesting. Anyways, read the manga, don't watch the anime. Have a good day. Oh, hi guys. Whoa. I hope you liked this. I'm sorry if it was confusing. I feel like Tokyo Ghoul and moral relativism are just both things that are so vast and kind of hard to put into what'll probably be like a 15-minute video. But anyways, I hope you still got something out of it. and it feels really good to be back making videos. I'm sorry October was crazy for me, as was the beginning of November, but we're here. I also should be back to streaming soon. I know I haven't streamed in like a hot minute, but like I said, things were a little bit crazy. And now you guys can see that I only did eye makeup on one eye because I was wearing the eye patch. How embarrassing. Anyway, if you liked the video, why not give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, give it some engagement. Even if you didn't like the video, leave a comment, give it some engagement. And I actually, hold on, that can't be right. Oh my god. I just heard that if you want to see more of my content, you can actually subscribe. If you would like to support the channel, links to my Patreon and merch are in the link tree in the description. Patrons get all kinds of fun perks like access to my Discord. Every so often I'll drop a blooper reel. I know, I'm also really, really behind on those things. Credit at the end of videos. So much fun stuff that you can learn more about either clicking the thing that probably just popped up over here somewhere or in that link tree. If you didn't like the video, wow, you're so cool. Bye!